One of my favorite rye whiskeys that release every single year from Michter's. Unfortunately, this year we're only going to get one release of this and a price increase. Let's find out if it's still worth it on the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C. from the Mash and Drum, and today we are reviewing the 2021 release of Michter's 10-year single barrel Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey. As I mentioned, this release will be the only release of this 10-year rye this year. Dan McKee, Michter's master distiller, said it's a multi-layered, bold, rich, and complex whiskey. Let's take a closer look. What's always been interesting to me about Michter's is that its origins actually begin in Pennsylvania in the mid-18th century. Around 1753, Swiss Mennonite brothers Johann and Michael Schenk started the distillery that would become Michter's, producing one of the earliest local American whiskeys with rye from its own grain fields in Schaefferstown in eastern Pennsylvania. The legend himself, George Washington, is rumored to have purchased whiskey from Schenk in the winter of 1778 to warm his troops stationed at Valley Forge. Now, the actual connection between today's Michter's and the original Pennsylvania Mennonite distillery is a bit murky. Basically, the folks who founded Michter's bought the rights to the expired trademark from Schenk's distilling efforts, so there was really no connection between Schenk's and what Michter's is today. Well, that begs the question, where did the name Michter's come from? It's actually a made-up word and the creation of mid-20th century distiller owner Lewis Foreman, who co-owned the Pennsylvania distillery with Charles Everett Beam. After Foreman took over, he named the first pot still sour mash whiskey Michter's, after his sons Michael and Peter making Michter's. So it was basically a combination of their names, you know, like Benifer or Brangelina. Now today, Michter's distillery has 3 locations, but tours are only offered at the beautiful Michter's Fort Nelson distillery in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. Now the main production distillery is in the Shively distillery, and the Fort Nelson distillery produces only small quantities and mainly exists for visitors. Recently, Michter's expanded their Springfield farm operations from 145 to 205 acres, which will allow them to produce more estate-grown grain for distillation and hopefully to produce more whiskey for all of us. Now, personally, I think rye whiskey is where Michter's excels. Their barrel-proof and toasted rye offerings are some of my personal favorites, but between the demand for their whiskey and the fact that they're still sourcing their 10-year stuff, we are seeing only one release and, you know, a slight price increase across the board on all their products. So let me get this a pour. Ooh, that was a hefty one. Michter's Master of Maturation, Andrea Wilson, said, "We wish we had more 10-year rye whiskey to share with Michter's fans. Unfortunately, we continue to struggle to meet demand on all of our whiskeys as these expressions require time and attention to detail to reach peak quality level for which Michter's is known. Despite the limited stocks, we believe Michter's drinkers will be thrilled with the results of this year's efforts." Let's find out. So this year's Michter's 10-year single barrel rye whiskey for 2021 is bottled at a cool 92.8 proof, retails for $170. Again, only one release this year and available in limited quantities. So let's go to the nose. Man, this is a Kentucky rye through and through, as opposed to some of the spicy ryes you get, you know, the 95.5s coming out of MGP. Sometimes, you know, the rye's coming out of either Maryland or Pennsylvania, which might have a little bit more of a spice kick to it. This is just super, super sweet. I get a nice toffee note on this, like a buttery caramel, but mixed with a little bit of mint. Nice little chocolate punch there. This has a ton of baking spices. I mean, a ton. Now, Michter's, you know, toast their barrels, so I feel like you do get a little bit of like graham cracker marshmallow that come through from that, just a little bit. But it's extremely rich on the nose. As it opens up, you start getting a little bit more citrus, which is more indicative to a rye whiskey. Almost like a lemon or an orange peel. You know, there's not a lot of burn. You know, you're only looking at 92.8 proof here. Man, it smells great. All right, let's try it. Here we go. Yeah, the palate matches the nose here. I mean, the toffee, nice punch of mint and citrus, especially on the mid palate. Nice little black pepper finish on the back end. Yeah, it's very sweet, which I think is, you know, probably one of the things that Michter's is known for, why people really love their rye whiskeys. So second sip, it becomes extremely easy to drink. You know, that lower proof point doesn't give you a lot of viscosity on the palate. You know, only 92 proof. It is a lot of flavor, and it is providing a really nice, you know, black pepper finish, I must say. As this has opened up, the finish has gotten a little bit more, you know, it's bringing a little bit more punch to it. Man, it's all sweet, candy, getting more of the toasted marshmallow in it. A little bit of graham cracker, a lot of cinnamon baking spices. Not so much the chocolate on the palate. It's more toffee, caramel, a lot of vanilla. Very, I mean, if you had an inexperienced drinker, I mean, you could easily, even me, like if I had this in a flight against some bourbons and depending on what order it was in, you know, you could easily call this out as a bourbon. It's that sweet, you know, but the mintiness in it is what maybe makes you think it's a little bit more of a rye, but it's not a super rye forward expression here. You know, as you sip this, it just gets easier and easier. If you like a barrel proof expression, if you want something with that oomph, or if you're looking for a spicier rye, you know, this one would probably one you'd want to skip, especially for the price point. The price on this one's tough. Unfortunately, you know, going up to 170 bucks for this. Also, the bourbon went up in, you know, as well for the 10-year expression. All right, one last sip. Let's go to the final breakdown. Front of the palate, all the sweet. Vanilla, toffee, a little bit of caramel there. It hits mid palate, you start getting the bursts of the cinnamon, the mint, a little bit of lemon or orange peel as well. Some of that toasted marshmallow comes out as well too. Then on the back end, I think is where you get the graham cracker, a little bit more of the oak. Really nice sweet oak presence here, just all throughout. And a really nice peppery finish to really kind of give it that rye, you know, that rye whiskey type of flavor and feel. It's very good. I wouldn't expect anything, you know, less from Michter's. Let's compare it to the barrel strength real quick. All right, so this is probably my favorite rye whiskey in the world is this barrel strength. It's just so damn good. And it's very consistent every year. But I want to see if I could find some similarities here and, you know, what the difference is. Now, this retails for about 80 bucks. So a lot cheaper, you know, a little bit more than half the price. Yeah, so the big difference is here, the 10-year has way more of an oak presence to it, while the barrel proof punches you in the face with a lot more mint and citrus coming off the nose. This one comes off more candy, the Michter's 10-year rye, while the barrel proof is really just wants to bring the flavor and the spice right to your face here. You get a little bit of those toasted notes too here as well in the barrel strength. But man, the mint and the citrus, you definitely get that rich toffee note here too. Let's go for a sip of the barrel strength. Oh my God. It's just on such another level. Now you could tell there's some younger whiskey in here. It doesn't have the oak presence and the roundness that I think that the 10-year has, but it's also giving you way more viscosity, way more flavor, you know, for the money. The 10-year, oh my God, the 10-year coming off that, this even gets sweeter and easier to drink. So this is just the 10-year just as it goes, and I've kind of mentioned this over time. The 10-year single barrel rye from Michter's just gets more candy and more candy and more candy over time. It's absolutely delicious. I know why a ton of people love it, but 170 bucks. Let's go to the final breakdown. All right, let's go to the final breakdown on the Michter's 10-year rye. We're looking at price, $170. Secondary, I've seen these as high as $280 to $300. I think what you're really paying for here with those prices, and sometimes even in stores, going that high, going up to the $200, $250 price point, is you're basically paying for the rarity of this because, like I said, it is very limited, which brings me to availability. Yes, very limited quantity, and we're only getting one of these this year. Value on this, I would say value is low. unfortunately. $170 for a 10-year rye whiskey. Now, granted, there aren't a lot out there, but there are some that you could find a lot cheaper. And even the Michter's barrel proof rye, you could find at retail for, you know, 80, 85, and it's even cheaper on secondary, which might be more of a, you know, flavor bomb than this. All right, so what's the most I would pay for this? I'm probably gonna say like 100 to 120 bucks. I think the most would be that really great range for this. Man, I wish it was that price, because I think it's an absolutely delicious rye whiskey. On the sweeter side, you know, but for me, a rye whiskey, I like a long, spicy finish, and it just kind of dies the more you sip it. The black pepper is still there on the finish, but I think for 170, there's other 10-year rye whiskeys available today, and much more of a variety of rye whiskeys today on the shelf to make 170 a little bit tough to spend that money on this. All right, is this a recommend? For me, you know, I don't know if I'd buy another one of these at that price point, but because I like spicier, more hefty ryes. Now, if you're not that person, if you like a sweeter, more Kentucky rye that's very sweet, very candy, this is right in your wheelhouse. And yeah, I mean, it's really up to you whether you want to spend 170 bucks or not, or even higher, to get your hands on this bottle, being it's so limited. But at the same time, if that's your wheelhouse, if that's where you like your rye whiskeys to be, you will not be disappointed in this. However, if you are more into the spicy ryes, the dill forward ryes, something that has a lot more, you know, pepperiness to it, then this would be a definite skip for you, because it just drinks so sweet. Now, if you don't want to spend the money and you're just kind of, you know, you're in the camp where you don't want to spend the money at all, there's some really good options out there. You have Whistle Pig 10-year, and I don't really endorse Whistle Pig too much, because I think their stuff is really way overpriced for what it is. But you can get their 10-year stuff, which I think is probably my favorite expression. They have a really solid 10-year rye whiskey for only 85 bucks. I always bring up Pikesville, which is a 6-year-old for, you know, about 50 bucks from Heaven Hill. Russell's Reserve Single Barrel, they're doing some great stuff over with some rye whiskeys at Wild Turkey. Hit that for about 65 bucks. I think those are generally in the 7 to 8 year range. Templeton just came out with an $85 rye. That's actually 10 years old. I have it right here, which is actually a nice rye. I mean, this is sourced from MGP. So if you like more of the, again, the spicy ryes, the 95.5s, but with a nice high age statement, 10 years old, you get this for about 85 bucks. And then even Old Forester, you know, they came out with their barrel proof rye as well, which is definitely harder to find, but still cheaper than this is. So there are a lot of options out there. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review for the Michter's Single Barrel 10-year rye whiskey. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. Let me know if you've had the 2021 yet, what you think of it. Do you think that $170 price point is worth it? Do you feel like it's too much, or you don't care, you're buying anything Michter's because you love it? Can't wait to hear from you. Leave a comment below. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. So cheers. And I'm gonna drink more of this rye candy goodness. That's basically what it is. It is rye candy. Take care, everybody.